Are the Egyptians black or white? Your only answer is, I don't know. Because have you studied physical anthropology as well as architecture? See? And if you don't know how to do DNA samples, which they're now doing on mummies, if you don't know how to do physical measurements, and the type of measurements that physical anthropologists do in order to identify phenotype, if you don't know how to do those things. So most Egyptologists are not scientists of any kind. I don't know whether you know that or not. That's why they're in such bad shape right now on dating. That's why they got caught off base in dating Hori Market. That's why they got caught off base dating certain kinds of temples. That instead of dating, they're half too little, at least. Hori Market is somewhere around 10,000 years ago, and they said 5. You know, why did they say 5? Because they're trying to find out by using inscriptions, instead of using geology, instead of using astronomy, instead of using the academic discipline that would give you additional evidence to help you interpret the text. So right now, Egyptology is in bad shape, no matter who beats up on them, whether it's the African scholars, whether it's the geologists and the seismologists and the astronomers. They're in bad shape. So generally, they keep their mouths shut. How many of the famous Egyptologists have you seen write a technical paper on the phenotype of the ancient Kamites? How many have ever seen one? See? They just don't do it because they are unprepared to do it. And that's why Obenga and Jop, who had the multidisciplinary skills and science in addition to the multidisciplinary social science skills, were able to integrate all that information and to do things that cannot be published now. All they can do is characterize it. They can say, that's not good, that's not good enough. That's characterizing, not engaging and challenging the documentation. And then, of course, now what we have is academic propaganda. If you read Mary Lefkowitz's book, Not Out of Africa, if you read Lowe's book, forget the exact title of that book that just came out, if you read those books, you'll see they call every name in the book. Lowe's book is a joke. They call, I don't know how many names. If you ever picked up a book on Egypt and you're black, your name is in the book. So you're in the bibliography. All the names are out there. Runoko is in there, you know, I'm in there, all of us in there in the book. But the thing that you find is that the citations that are made apparently have not been read. See? They're not quoting and saying, this is what they said, here's what's wrong. In fact, one of the things they said about my writing is that I said that the study of ancient Kemet, I think I did it in a publication right over here, Phylon. I said, why Kemet? I said the study of ancient Kemet will give us a cultural base from which we can reconstruct our educational process. He said, he even said that. I'm guilty, I said that. And I'll say it again, and it is, and it will. You see? But that's also scary to people who believe in the supremacy of Western civilization. It's another form of white supremacy. You just say Western, and that means white. So white civilization is what they're talking about. And they're arguing that that is the only thing that schools should be about. And through that mechanism to try to establish hegemony, and through that mechanism try to destroy the families of African people. Because what holds the family together? What is it that holds your family together? It's when you sit down in the evening and say, we are the Smith family. We came to Atlanta in 1813. We came here in covered wagons. We built mud houses. We did this. We had this money. We lost our money. We got some more money. Got us a farm. We did that. And when the family tells those stories, it pulls them closer together. And so when you say, as African people, before we were enslaved, we were on both continents. We were in the African continent. We were already here doing things on our own. And we got stories that we must tell our children because we want our children to identify with us, thank you, not with you. And that's what's scary. It's the family feeling more than the information itself that frightens people, because if you have a family, you will not be a victim. That's what the issue is. Recently, we had another shift. It's really funny to watch these shifts. For example, when we first started this battle out, the Egyptologists were still calling Egypt, Egypt. Now they all call it Kemet. Why do you suppose, if they knew it was Kemet in the first place, why didn't they call it by its name? There's no place where Egypt appears in the text. But the Egyptologists now have a magazine called Kemet. So we were the ones that put that out there, you see? So we moved them to a place because their position was so absurd, the kind of things that they were saying, and still are saying. You know, Brother Mario got me, he blew my mind. He just got mad. They said that we were getting this notion about the mystery system from the Masonic order and so forth. And he said, well, let's just go back and see what the text say. And he can't quit reading. He's finding so many references to the mystery system that the white folks say didn't exist, and that the only place we could have understood anything about a mystery education system was to get it from them. So they're ridiculous. They're standing out there on air, and this is part of the problem. So they had this one little exhibit, and it was kind of funny to me because for once they pulled together Egyptologists, including the interesting Frank Yerko in Indianapolis, and there's a little book that's been published called Egypt in Africa. And my article in it is called Are Africans African? I mean, why should we even have to sit up and argue whether Africans are Africans or not, whether they're black or not? Anybody that thinks they're white should put their argument on paper. They don't put their argument on paper, they challenge ours. They don't challenge it, they characterize it. So the work that ASCAC has to do is extremely serious. Part of what you got to do in order that every time something like this comes up, you don't tie Brother Tony Martin down for the next year building a book to refute a fool, that you don't tie Runoko Rashidi up he's out here trying to find our connection to Australia. They're getting ready to go out there now. He goes over to India. He's digging up information, publishing it. That's what we need. We're going to win just by publishing what we know. That's why we're the only people on the planet whose people are being attacked because they do reading and research. The only people. You know, why do you think we're the only people? Well, because brothers and sisters in other parts of the diaspora have begun to hear and read. They've begun to see things that they hadn't seen before. Brothers in South Africa picking up books by Dr. John Henry Clark, Jacob Carruthers. They're picking up these books, and he said, wait a minute, I got to reframe what I thought history was. And they begin to write, and over on the continent, out in the Caribbean, and places like that, they're doing it everywhere. That's what the problem is. Because once they begin to do that, the family begins to knit itself back together again. And of course, there's nothing that oppressors fear more than unity among the oppressed. So that's our job. That's a major contribution that somebody else in ASCAC can make to help us pull together and expose the kind of thing that I'm talking about in a formal way. Charts, graphs, books, and publication. That we do more research and publication, because that's what's gotten us in trouble in the first place. Well, we're not in trouble. Like Listerveld was called by this reporter one time. He said, they say that this scholarship that you guys are coming up with is shoddy and false scholarship. Listerveld, classic statement, classic Listerveld. I gave him a big hug for it. He said, you know, to the reporter, he says, I talked to a lot of African scholars. He said, I haven't met any of them that are sitting around waiting to be validated by white people. He said, I don't know anybody that's waiting for you to tell us we can do this. We're going to do it. So we have to do more. And above all, we need more dissemination. We got to get this stuff out there. Some of y'all, you're awesome on the internet. We got to get our stuff out. To put Queen T on the internet and her whole story, you got a home page, put it out there. You know, to put the bibliography out of the books that we need, put it out there, as well as put all this foolishness out. That is the map of the interlocking network of people, that little small group of poot-butt people who have nothing but money.